So good day, sir. I am Sharman Dances. So today I will be discussing my research thesis, which is the Streptococcus pneumonia disease. So an abstract, Streptococcus pyogenes is the predominant bacterial pathogen, and pharyngitis and tonsillitis bacterial pathogens adhere to mucous membranes and colonization, ensures that in an otherwise healthy individual, the host immune system responds to the invading bacteria, resulting in edema and swelling. So if antimicrobial treatment does not eradicate the invading organism and successfully interrupt the progress of the infection, so the patient may develop recurrent or chronic disease. So the Streptococcus pneumoniae and other pathogens once susceptible to penicillin and other antibiotics are now becoming resistant. So, in my introduction, so Streptococcus pneumoniae is an important pathogen causing invasive disease such as sepsis, meningitis, and pneumonia. So the burden of disease is highest in the youngest and oldest sections of the population in both more and less developed countries. So the treatment of pneumococcal infection is complicated by the worldwide emergence in pneumoniae of resistance of penicillin and other antibiotics. So as a pneumococcal disease is preceded by septomy colonization, which is especially high in children. So the Streptococcus is an infectious pathogen responsible for millions of deaths worldwide. So diseases caused by the bacterium are classified as pneumococcal diseases. This pathogen colonizes the nasopharynx of its host asymptomatically. So, but over time can migrate to sterile tissues and organs and cause infections. So, pneumonia is currently the most common pneumococcal disease. Pneumococcal pneumonia is a global health concern and vastly affects children under the age of 5 as well as the elderly and individuals pre-existing health conditions. So, the Streptococcus pneumonia has a large selection of virulence factors that promotes adherence, invasions of host tissues, and allows it to escape host immune defenses. So in my pathophysiology of Streptococcus pneumonia, so this is the bacterial growth of Streptococcus pneumonia. So pneumococcal disease is caused by bacteria called Streptococcus pneumonia. So people with pneumococcal disease can spread the bacteria to others when they cough or sneeze. Symptoms of pneumococcal infection depend on the part of the body affected. So, my clinical manifestation. So, symptoms generally included an abrupt onset of fever and shaking or chills. Other symptoms may include headache, cough, chest pain, disorientation, shortness of breath, weakness, and occasionally a stiffness. So otitis media is the most common clinical syndrome, but pneumococcal pneumonia in children and adults underlies most serious infections and death. So the spectrum of infection range from symptomatic pharyngeal colonization to pneumococcal disease, so such as otitis media, to invasive disease, bacteria in a normally sterile site, bacteria, meningitis, empyema, endocarditis. So most invasive diseases results from bacterium seeding but meningitis. So my microbial diagnosis. So the Streptococcus pneumonia can be readily identified by culturing bacterial samples and blood agar. Due to the hemolytic properties of the bacteria, they will turn blood agar to dark green However, growing bacteria cultures can take time. So therefore, it's most efficient to diagnose an infection using more modern techniques. So the first technique involves the detection of part of Streptococcus bacterium known as antigens in urine. So C. polysaccharide, a main component of the bacterial cell wall, can be detected in a number of bodily fluids. So immunochromatography is used to test for the presence of specific antigens and compares favorable to diagnosis via bacterial culture. So the second technique involves an assay based on detections of Streptococcus pneumoniae. So specific is the DNA sequences. So this can be performed extremely quickly, and high specificity conferred by using DNA samples as a target minimizes the risk of error. So the prevention and treatment of the Streptococcus pneumonia is the antibiotics are the first line of treatment for bacterial infections and are effective against pneumococcus. So, however, treatment of pneumococcal infections is dependent on the strain that a patient is infected with. Some strains of Streptococcus pneumonia have acquired a resistance to specific antibiotics and therefore cannot be reliably treated with them. So, the prevention is considered to be better than a cure, and therefore vaccination is preferable to having to treat a disease. So, 2 vaccines for pneumococcal infections are available, and both work under the same mechanism, delivery of antigens to provoke an immune response in the recipient. So, the virulence factor of locations of Streptococcus and then to function. So the virulence factor is the polysaccharide capsule. Next, location on Streptococcus pneumonia, such as layer of polysaccharides on cell wall. So the function of this is to allow the bacteria to escape the nasal mucus, inhibits polysaccharide polyproteins by innate immune cells, escape neutral traps, inhibits complaint and recognition by hemoglobins. So allows adherence and collination on the nasopharynx. So next is the pneumolysine. So the location of this is the cytoplasmic toxin. So function binds to membrane with cholesterol. The next forms spores with cell lysis, induce inflammation, drives host-to-host transmission. Next is the can activate complaints and modulate chemokine and cytosine production. So the conclusion of my Streptococcus pneumonia disease is after successful collination, the Streptococcus pneumonia disease can cause a wide variety of clinical symptoms. So by direct extension from the nasopharynx, so the Streptococcus pneumonia infection can spread and then manifest as otitis media, sinusitis, tracheobronchitis, and pneumonia. By invasion and hematogenous spread, so the Streptococcus pneumonia infection can cause primary bacteremia, meningitis, osteomyelitis, pharyngitis, endocarditis, myositis, septic arthritis, and peritonitis. So, it has complex relationship with a obligate human host. So on the other hand, the pneumococci are highly adapted commensals and their main reservoir on the mucosal surface of the upper airway of caries enable transmission. So on the other hand, they can cause severe disease when bacterial and host factors allow them to invade essential sterile sites such as the middle air spaces, lungs, bloodstream, and meningitis. Transmission, colonization, and invasion depend on the remarkable ability of Streptococcus pneumoniae to evade of advantage of the host inflammatory and immune responses. So the different stages of pneumococcal carriage and diseases have been investigated in detail in animal models and more recently in experimental human infection. So furthermore, widespread vaccination and the resulting immune system immune system have shed light on pneumococcal population dynamics and pathogenesis. So here we review the mechanical insights provided by these studies on the multiple and varied interactions of the pneumococcus and its host. And that's all, posters. Thank you and God bless.